Hey, how's it going? Rich from Elk Endeavors. Hey, today I'm going to be talking about the second and third week that I've done for the money cleanse and the money journal that I've done from the money cleanse. This is something that has been really helpful for me, but it has taken me a little longer than I expected, just because I want to do it right and I want to get the things done. And Ashley Feinstein Gersley talks about how in order to prepare for this and to really do a good job with it, you have to take your time, right? So 30 days is what it is. Like it's not necessarily that you have to do it in 30 days, but and so I'm taking my time with it. I'm enjoying it, and I'm learning a lot. And ultimately, that's what I'm trying to share with you. So today, what I'm going to talk to you about is the second 2 weeks that I've done for the money journal, which has really helped me see some things that I wasn't necessarily thinking I would see. And then I'm also going to be talking about preparing for week 2 of the money cleanse, which ultimately now is week 4 or 5 for me. But again, it's really important to get the first part right and prepare yourself so that when you go to do the last 3 weeks of it, you can move forward in a really helpful foundational fashion. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you and let you know what exactly it is that I've done. And before I do that, if you like what I have to say, please comment and subscribe. Do all the stuff you need to do on YouTube. Like the video, subscribe. Make sure you share this with other people. There's people that need this. This is why I'm doing this, because I know that people need these things. I wish I had had the Money Cleanse book 10 years ago, but I didn't. And so now I'm going to be working with it now, and for my life now and moving forward with it. So make sure you share this video, like, subscribe, do all the things, comment below, and we'll go ahead and share our screen and work through the second and third week of my money journal. All right, so now we're going to be taking a look at my money journal, and I wanted to start off with the last week, which was September 27th to October 4th. And so when I look at this, there's a couple things that I want to point out to you. Number one is just the expenses that I had. So I had gas. I went to CVS, which is a drugstore for prescription. I bought groceries for $135 or so, and that was like I explained in last week's video. I had my kids last weekend, so I always have to have a lot more food in the house for my kids. Then they needed shoes. I realized that when they got there that their shoes they were all getting stubby toes because their shoes were so small, and I just didn't know that. So I go ahead and went ahead and got them some shoes. And then again, groceries. We did a fun taco night at a friend's house, and then I bought pumpkins for them, and that was something that I hadn't realized was going to happen, but it was really exciting. So last week was my biggest week of spending. You can see the first week I did $98. Last week I did $341, and then this week $124. So I'll talk about that in a second. But when you think about, these are the things that I thought were interesting, and I'll come back to this highlighted one. But these are things that I think will be helpful to you because they were helpful for me, and I really wouldn't have noticed these things had I not been doing the money cleanse. So the first one was that I have a vacuum, and I went to take it to get fixed or tuned up or whatever, and and the lady was like, "This thing it's shot. It's all broken." I had no idea, but it wasn't working. It had this horrible sound that it was making, and ultimately that was the reason that the vacuum was shot. I didn't know that, so I went and I was hoping to just get it fixed. So the next thing I know, she's trying to sell me on a new vacuum, which is fine. And the vacuum that I had, I could have turned in and traded it in for like $200, depending on what vacuum I was going to walk out of there with. So while I was there, I had no intent. I'm going through the money cleanse, and I had no intention ever of buying a new vacuum. And even if I did, I had no idea that it was as expensive as it was. So the vacuum I was looking at was $499, and I legitimately almost bought the vacuum. And it was funny because I was like, I got to get out of here, because if I stay here too long, I'm gonna buy this vacuum because it's wired. I mean, it's cordless, it's a rechargeable, but the thing is, it's a behemoth. I have one room that I have to vacuum in this apartment. And ultimately, I would have been spending this $499, and I to literally do a 120 square foot room that has carpet. So it would have been really bad, but it would have been helpful in the future. But it was just interesting that all the things I'm doing with my money, and then all of a sudden I really did almost drop $500 on a new vacuum just because it seemed like it was necessary. I also found that having cash was not helpful to me. I've been living under the impression and using cash under the impression that having cash, I would be constantly vigilant of it, and I wasn't going to, I wouldn't spend it and things like that. That was not the case, and I'd never really seen that or understood that about myself. So I had $100. I pulled out $100, and part of the reason was so I could go to this pumpkin patch to buy pumpkins, and I needed cash for that. And so I had $100, and it was so I bought pumpkins for $15. And then I gave them $5 extra because they're there. It's just this family like on the side of the road that lays out these pumpkins. And I just thought it would be helpful for them to have $5 extra. So that's what I did. But it was a heck of a lot easier to drop five extra dollars for them with the cash, which is fine. But my point is that it really wasn't. Once the cash was out of my bank, then it was kind of like burning a hole in my pocket, for lack of a better word. And I thought that was really interesting. And then finally, the essential, thinking about things as essential is really, really subjective. And you can see that I don't spend all that much money. And I really don't spend much money on fun at all. So the pumpkins, I don't, yes, that's kind of frivolous in one sense because I don't need pumpkins. The last thing I need is pumpkins hanging around the house. But the kids are having fun, and the things that I got mums and 3 pumpkins and like 6 different candles. I gave a couple candles to a friend of mine. It was really nice to have those things. So while I might think of those things as frivolous, that's a necessary thing because I want to have fun. I need to have fun. And if you look up with at this one, I went out for sushi with a friend, and that could seem frivolous, but you can see like I don't ever go out to dinner. I don't ever, I rarely buy food outside of the grocery store, and I need to do that, right? So I'm okay with that, and so I don't see that as a frivolous spend. I see that as something that's essential for me for any of us, right? If I was going out to dinner every night, and if I was going out to lunch every morning or every day, that would be something different. But just going out to sushi once, and you can see that I don't have much in the way of spending on excess food. Or going out to dinner or lunch. So that to me is essential. And so, and then last week, you can see I used $124. I have $118 as essential, and then I did put in that these snacks were frivolous. And you notice this is on the same night. So I had sushi, and it kind of tells you what sushi does. So sushi is really not that filling. So I ate the sushi, and then I needed snacks to kind of like tide me over until the morning. So that's what I wanted to talk about in terms of my money journal. I hope this is helpful, and I hope you can kind of see the things that I'm doing that will hopefully help you. As I move into week 2, and as I've prepared for week 2, I'm starting to see how this is really going to help me. So the first part about this is going to be the happiness allocation. So when we look at week 2, we're going to be talking about the happiness allocation, and it's a really cool concept. And this is where I thought that I wasn't going to be able to save all that much money, but when I started looking at the happiness allocation, I really can see the power of this. So I'm curious to see how this goes. So what you're going to do is when you think of the happiness allocation, you have the income, your incoming money, okay, your incoming money minus your outgoing money equals your happiness allocation. That's pretty much the way it works, right? So that's pretty easy. And then when we think about what that means, and so I bring up 2 examples, right? So with the first one is if you're talking about groceries. So if let's say I spend $2,000 on groceries in a year, which probably is really low, but let's see. So $2,000 in a year on groceries. What I can do is look at, okay, do I really need $2,000 worth of groceries, or am I spending too much on the groceries? So if next year, or if I decide, okay, I'm going to, try to spend $200 less, that means I would only be spending $1,800, leaving me with $200 to spend on something else, right? So this is something that can be allocated to something else, right? So it can be, maybe you're looking to go to a concert, maybe you're looking to go on vacation. So that $200, instead of going to groceries, which maybe it's like, you buy generic granola bars as opposed to name brand granola bars, something like that, something for your kids. Those like little things that really don't matter, but those are that's the type of thing. The other thing is that there was something else. I created a way, like if I the snacks. So I had a habit of spending $6.52 a week at Wawa, and I've talked about this, right? So $652 a week. It ended up being something like $390 a year, right? So it doesn't sound like a lot, but really, like, $390 a year is a lot, right? And so when you think about, do I really want to spend $390 on snacks, on a smoothie per week, or do I want to do something with that money? And what you need to do, and what I think is really important here, or what's really powerful, is that you have the $390. That is really good. What I can do is, I have been looking for a digital SLR camera to be with my kids, right? So that is really exciting. So the idea that I might be able to trade weekly smoothies to get a DSLR camera for my kids, that is huge, right? And that's the kind of thing that you're really going to benefit from, because you're looking at it as something that's really exciting, something that's really fun, and ultimately you're going to be a lot more motivated to knock out the smoothies and go toward that digital SLR camera. All right, so the next thing you need to do when you're talking about the happiness allocation is really put into perspective what you earn in a year, and what you bring in a year versus what goes out. So let's say, just for the sake of argument here, let's say you bring in $50,000 per year. Okay, and this is just a number that I'm throwing out there so that we can make a point. And so you have you have expenses that come each month that are critical. So the things that it's really easy to bring in your mortgage. So if you have if your mortgage is $1,000 per, then you do that 12 times, equals $1,200. Okay, and then you have, let's say you have a electric bill that is $50, and you do that 12 times, and then that is $600. Okay, so what you're doing here is really figuring out your ability. So this is your $1,800. So let's say your annual expenses that are going to happen. They're monthly expenses, and I'm talking about like haircuts. If you get a haircut every 6 weeks, figure out and try to ballpark. And you might be able to be exact on this, but you might have the ballpark. Probably have the ballpark. Okay, I get my haircut every like 6 weeks or 2 months, so that's like 6 haircuts a year. That doesn't sound right. Yeah, but 6 haircuts a year for $30, that's $180. So that's the type of thing. So when you think, so what I'll do is I'll just say, okay, $50,000, and let's say that's the income. So that is the income, but I spend of that. I spend on things that I know are happening. So let's say you have you do $35,000 on car payment, monthly expenses, that sort of thing. So now you're left with $15,000 for the year, and then you have to look at your miscellaneous expenses. So these are the things like groceries, like going to the park, going to get ice cream, those types of things. All the things that are essential and you have to do versus the things that aren't essential and that you don't have to do. All right, so I got a little cut off yesterday. I got distracted. Someone was at my door. It kind of distracted me. So I'm just gonna cut back in and let you know where I was trying to finish off, and then we'll finish up. So we were at 15,000. Oops, $15,000. And that was after like your monthly expenses. So what we're going to do is then say, okay, if you have miscellaneous expenses, let's say your miscellaneous expenses during the year are $14,000. Okay, so that means you're under budget, you're under, you're not spending, you're spending 80 or sorry, 49,000 of the 50,000 that's income. So that leaves you with $1,000. Now that's your happiness allocation. Now, what you want to do with that, $1,000 sounds like a lot until you look at it as a monthly piece, and then it's under $100 a month, obviously. So what you want to do is say, okay, instead of $14,000 of my leftover money, you want to cut that down to let's try to say 12,000, okay, which would leave you with $3,000 for your happiness allocation. That's even better. And then if you go over here to your monthly expenses that you have, that might be something where you cut your cable bill, right? That maybe you would call your cable company and say, hey, I want a better rate. You go to your phone, your electric or something like that. Just kind of look where you can cut, and that could end up being like $200 or $300. So that would then add to the $33,000, and maybe you might end up with $3,500 in your happiness allocation, which would be really good, right? So that's what I want to talk about. I'll go ahead and cut back to the end, and I appreciate your patience with that little piece. Thanks. All right, so that's what I wanted to talk about today. I'm really excited for the second week of the Money Cleanse. I'm looking forward to it for myself. I hope you're looking forward to it too. If you're following along with me, that's great. Please let me know in the comments. Let me know how it's going. If you haven't started following along with me, make sure you get the book in the description below. It's linked up in the description below. And also go back and watch the first couple of videos if you haven't. They're in a playlist here. So with that said, thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. Like the video if you're so inclined, and we'll see you next week on Monday.